Part 137. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1366. Shield. Suddenly, a transparent buckler appeared behind Elfies, firmly blocking He-Man's attack. But it only took a second. The buckler shattered instantly, and with a crash, the black dragon rushed towards Elfies. The breath of a lower god. Die. Seaman's black claws suddenly melted and turned into black shadows, as if his body had no fixed shape at all. Shield wind. Elfies stepped back, and his divine power spurred the priesthood to explode. A huge crystal shield appeared in front of her, more than 10 meters high. Her priesthood is defense and peace, and her divine power is a weak divine power. Like Garen, she did not establish a divine kingdom, but only used her priesthood for explosive one-time use. In this way, although the ability to continue fighting is much weaker, it still avoids being pulled by the thread of faith and falling. Puff. The shadow claws hit the crystal shield, sputtering out a large number of black light spots. Strangely, these black light spots condensed into black claws behind the shield and continued to grab Elfies. Laugh. Elfies was caught off guard and was hit hard on the arm by a claw. His body instantly disappeared and flashed to Rasta, who was more than 10 meters away. Freeze. Rasta just unleashed his divine powers. The white cold air swept over like mist, covering all surrounding areas. There was a dead silence and absolute silence in the mist. A snake-like hissing could be heard faintly. Blasphemy. Seaman suddenly opened his mouth and spat out the same black air, facing the front and the incoming white mist. The two mists suddenly stirred up, and Rasta's face turned cold as he rushed in alone. Seaman also smiled and turned into black smoke and got in. A violent vibration spread directly from the mist. With a muffled groan, Rasta flew out upside down, with a faint trace of platinum divine blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. He was best at close combat, and he never expected that the winner would be decided in a very short period of time. The opponent's strength was almost unbelievable. Not long ago, he was only a son of hell at the demigod level, but now he has reached such a high level. Countless black smoke emerged from the mist and quickly transformed into a huge dark dragon tens of meters long. With a roar, the dragon's roar directly shook away all the white mist around it. The huge sound waves even shook the valley to the point of shaking. The expressions of Rasta and Elfies changed, and they rushed towards Nadia at the same time, grabbed her and left. I want to leave, Seaman laughed ferociously and flew towards him. Countless tentacles like black smoke suddenly shot out from the wings and penetrated into the space. They came out directly from the space beside the three people and tied them up. He-Man. Suddenly a white figure appeared in the space between the black dragon and the three people. Seaman's face suddenly darkened, his eyebrows flickered, and all movements quickly stopped. Over there, Rasta and the others took the opportunity to break away from their bindings and fly away. However, they did not fly away directly. Instead, they hovered behind the visitor with a look of respect on their faces. Galen. Although He-Man has swallowed many children of Hell, and although his consciousness has been controlled by the will of Hell, He-Man still has his original memory. You should call me, Dragon King. Garen looked at the once most powerful genius of the White Dragon clan in front of him, who had changed beyond recognition. Transformed from a white dragon into an invisible dragon whose body is possessed by the will of Hell. There was a lot of pain, resentment, unwillingness, and anger lingering in his body. It was obvious that he had experienced a lot of unimaginable pain and suffering before being possessed. What do you mean you're coming out now? Seaman asked with a gloomy look. It's not interesting. I came here to see you because I hope you can return to our White Dragon clan. Garen's tone was calm. His double-eyed dragon eyes stared at the other person's eyes lightly. An invisible huge pressure slowly gathered around them. It circled and turned into gusts of wind that became increasingly fierce. Return, Seaman suspected that he heard wrongly. As a child of Hell, You are asking me to return now? Garen, are you kidding or something? You wouldn't have been so naive when you were a young dragon. You are from the White Dragon clan. No one can deny this, right? Garen asked in return. So what? He-Man dismissed it. As the strongest White Dragon King in history, Garen's reputation has reached its peak. Even the Abyss demonic dragon clan has retreated under his majesty. Other colorful dragons and metal dragons all recognize his supreme white dragon ruling authority. Even in recent years, some evil dragon clans who have taken refuge in the void have proposed that he become the evil dragon king and lead the entire evil-colored dragon clan to glory. The Red Dragon Queen and the other major dragon clans remained silent, which showed that the influence of the double-eyed White Dragon King had reached an immeasurable level. It is precisely because of this that I hope you return to the clan, Garen said in a low voice. No matter what you become, the clan is your home after all. The place where you were born is also the place you can rely on. Have you forgotten the nature of our white dragon? It's really ridiculous, Garen. This is the first time I've seen a white dragon king like you. You actually want to use the emotional card to impress the son of hell. Should I call you stupid or naive? He-Man scoffed. Garen stared at him for a moment and sighed slowly. So, you don't want to do it anymore? You want me to surrender to the void? Go ahead and dream, He-Man sneered. No room for negotiation at all, Garen tried to redeem himself. You've talked enough nonsense, Seaman sneered. Garen's expression gradually turned cold. Pity. What are you regretting? What a pity. You didn't have to die. Boom. A huge white dragon claw suddenly fell from the sky, pressing Seaman down. The speed of the dragon's claw was almost faster than lightning. At the moment when everyone had no reaction at all, it crashed down with a roar, and the white shadow flashed. The survivors present only felt their eyes blur, and a huge white dragon claw that connected the sky and the ground appeared in front of them. Click. The dragon's claws picked up the large piece of soil underneath and held it in his hands together with He-Man. The entire dragon claw is over 1,000 meters wide, and its length extends all the way to the sky. A huge dragon-headed mouth over 1,000 meters suddenly appeared behind Garen's body. The dragon's claws directly stuffed He-Man and the soil into the mouth, and started chewing violently. Puff. Just like biting a balloon, a large amount of fine black air flew out from the dragon's mouth, converging into a greatly reduced black dragon body in mid-air in the distance. It's He-Man. He ran away directly into the distance without looking back. He didn't expect that Garen would do it as soon as he said it, and the power that exploded in an instant almost completely suffocated him, almost. He was almost completely swallowed by the dragon's mouth. He had an intuition that once he was swallowed by that big mouth, even if he was the son of hell, he would completely lose all the energy of this incarnation. You must know that in order to enter this battlefield to maximize the results, he bringing almost all the power. Once it is destroyed, all his years of accumulation will be in vain. Garen did not chase him, but quietly watched as He-Man fled quickly. Although the opponent's incarnation was not destroyed, it also caused him severe damage. The other party is the protagonist of this world, and the general trend determines that any existence that wants to kill him will encounter many obstacles and troubles. Garen actually had no intention of killing the opponent completely. Turning around, a group of survivors below behind them looked at each other, not knowing how to face Garen. Several void creatures reacted immediately and directly took action to restrain the strong men from the local world around them. Those few people did not dare to resist, and could only smile bitterly as they were caught and imprisoned. Only then did Garen's eyes fall on Nadia. This is not the place you should come, he frowned. The opponent's level 13 aura wave came here alone to seek death. Even demigods like Andrew didn't let him in. This war brought together almost the top powers of the two worlds. If something goes wrong with this kind of layout, it will cause an overwhelming and terrifying disaster that will cover everything. Why shouldn't I come? Nadia said unwillingly. Breaking away from Elfie's protection, he was suspended in the air alone. You could rise from the bottom back then, so can I. She tried her best to look at Garen equally, but the invisible pressure and the poisonous eye poison unconsciously filled her heart with waves of panic and fear. Garen, who still needed her protection back then, has now reached an unimaginable level. Actually, I'm just unwilling to give in. There were waves of bitterness in her heart. For Garen, from the first time she looked down to now, she was still very happy to meet him in this strange world. It's just that I can't let go of my original dignity. In fact, she also wanted to take a good rest, and seeking refuge with her former friend Garen was a good choice, but for some reason, she couldn't open her mouth to beg him every time they met. I will never give in to anyone. Just give up, she emphasized again. I understand your determination. Garen nodded slightly. Bang. Elfie suddenly punched Nadia hard in the abdomen. The huge pain and the cold air emitted by Rista beside her instantly knocked her unconscious. Garen appeared directly next to Nadia and picked her up. Let's go. Rista smiled helplessly. Doesn't she know that if the gap is too big, any mental activity will be directly captured by the other party in front of the superior god? Elfie saw that his old enemy was now acting awkwardly like a child, and he didn't know what he was feeling. It was always a little weird. Maybe she really doesn't know, she added in a low voice. The three people teleported directly and disappeared in place. Prime material plane. Large areas of the earth are dry and cracked. Countless cracks spread along the ground, gradually getting longer and wider, and finally turned into abyss cracks. A burning aura of destruction rose from the cracks. The sky was a bloody color, and large areas of corpses of true spirit gods were floating in the sky. Some had been corrupted, some had turned into pieces of empty islands, and some had turned into evil beings like gods. All the cities on the main plain have collapsed. At the same time as the decisive battle began, the Star Demon Lord and the Eye of Slaughter each led countless legions and began to massacre the entire main material plane. All living creatures, including animals, plants, and sea fish, were also killed. The entire plane was filled with deathly silence, and even the undead could not be produced, because the souls were also swallowed by the void creatures. Black spaceships with a golden halo in front of them flew through the sky from time to time. They were void battleships. These beetle-like battleships could use golden halo pliers to cut off any solid object or divine body. They are responsible for dealing with various derivative dangerous creatures after the war. This world is on the verge of collapse. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1367. Dragon King Peak. Red lightning flashed across the bloody sky from time to time. The white dragons have formed a heavily guarded defense circle on the ground and in the air around Dragon King Peak. The Tower of Winter stands high above, emitting a light blue halo, covering an entire area of thousands of kilometers, protecting this area from any threat of disaster. During a catastrophe, only absolute power can guarantee true safety. In a hollow in the middle of Dragon King Peak, the ice-covered walls are carved with busts and heads of Garleans. They seem to have countless pairs of eyes staring at the group of people sitting in the center. The Lord of Snow City sat on the cushion with his daughter Isolaya. In front of him was the Winged King, followed by several Snow City counselors, as well as Polly and Leona, who had not returned for a long time. The 15th level Great Arcanist Unova Kalong personally brought his daughter to Dragon King Peak to apologize. Even Baelongshan admitted defeat when he apologized for expelling Garen. What reason did he have not to bow his head? After Baelong Mountain surrendered, Andrew found an excuse to purge a large number of high-level officials and powerful people who were suspected of targeting Garan. Hundreds of white dragon corpses were killed. This is undoubtedly a huge catastrophe for the clan, which only has a total of thousands. But even so, the Great Elder actually endured it. One can imagine how strong and influential Garen has become now. As soon as he got the news, Anovakulan hurriedly came with his daughter Isolaya to apologize. Of course, he not only apologized, but also planned to come to seek help to relieve the crisis in Snow City. To this end, he also specially invited two white dragons, Leona and Polly, who had left the clan. It was said that they had a good relationship with Garen, but they were only forced to leave the clan because they signed an eternal life contract and avoided the three elders. After all, Snow City still belongs to the Empire. The Grey Shadow Council collapsed inexplicably not long ago, which caused the Empire's strength to be greatly reduced. Void creatures invaded on a large scale, and even Snow City was unable to guarantee its own safety. Overpowered at the highest levels of power. Especially when the Star Demon Lord's army swept across, Anovakulan had no choice but to bow his head and compromise, and came to Dragon King Peak to seek support. The only person nearby who could help him was Garen, whose strength was unfathomable. His Majesty the Dragon King is out. You guys came at the wrong time. Annie, who was in charge of entertaining, walked into the cave and explained with a frown. It doesn't matter, we can wait. Anovakulan said seriously, I bring the highest sincerity of Snow City. I just hope that His Excellency the White Dragon King with double eyes can take action once to help Snow City tide over the difficulties. Isolaya was sitting elegantly and dignifiedly beside her. The innocent and cute little girl at the beginning has now become a beautiful, pure, and noble lady. We brought the original apology. This is compensation. Even if His Majesty the Dragon King is unwilling to accept it, please be sure to pay attention to the gift that represents apology. Maybe this is what he needs. She said solemnly, her voice neither humble nor arrogant. And looked at her seriously. I will convey your thoughts. Then she exchanged messages with Leona and Polly, who came together and sat in the back, and said something. Then he quit. There were only two wolf-headed men with blue eyes guarding the entrance to the cave. The entire cave returned to silence again. At this point, the defeat of the local world is almost a foregone conclusion, and there is no way to recover. It is understandable that these powerful forces want to find a big tree that they can take refuge in. It just depends on whether Garen is willing to accept it. Native creatures do not have to be completely exterminated. They can also undergo various transformations and become semi-void creatures. This is also a way to transform the power of the native world and accelerate destruction. Garlean's Twisted Seed and Biochemical Pool transformation are just that. The Northland is just one of the small areas. Similar situations are happening in many other areas at this moment. A large number of local forces give up resistance and look for help from the Void forces. The situation is becoming clearer. Time passed by minute by minute. Finally, a group of people walked in from the cave entrance. The leaders were Garen, Rista, and others who had just escaped from the decisive battlefield. Garen, who was wearing a white cloak, strode up to Anovakulan, who stood up, and slowly sat down. I don't have time to listen to your chat now. One condition. Garen stretched out his index finger, all of you beings above level 10 accept the transformation of my Twisted Seed. The Snow City Lord changed his color slightly. Over the years, he had learned clearly about the role of the Twisted Seed. His life and death were almost completely tied to Garen. But at this point, he had no choice. Okay, I promise you. To be honest, Snow City is meaningless to me now. Its only function is to increase the number of humans under my command. Other than that, it has no effect. Your sincerity should be that set of formation spirits, right? Take come. Garen held out his hand. The formation spirit that caused him to almost die in the first place was naturally the other party's sincerity in coming this time. He is now at the level of a superior god, and his spontaneous telepathy can directly and instantly understand the psychological activities of all existences present. Naturally, there are no secrets in his eyes. The Snow City Lord was not surprised at all. He looked at his daughter Isolaya, who quickly stood up, walked slowly to Garen, and knelt down. "This is the formation spirit." She handed something like a black eggplant to Garen with both hands. "As part of my apology and sincerity, I am also a gift to your majesty. It's up to you." She lowered her head and bit her lip. Although she had been mentally prepared countless times, when she actually said these humiliating words face to face, she finally felt a sense of despair, as if she had given up everything. "Are you?" Garen didn't recognize it immediately, so he took a moment to identify it. "Isilia? Dragon Mage?" "Yes." "What do I want you to do?" Garen glanced at the eggplant in her hand, and then at the pretty Isilia. Puff. I couldn't help but burst into laughter from the side. The men under Rista and several other subordinates looked ambiguous, while the women's faces were red. Suddenly the atmosphere in the cave relaxed a lot. "Forget it, the formation spirits will stay. I understand your sincerity. According to my request, within 3 days, all high-level executives above level 10 will come to receive the seeds of distortion. You can handle it yourself." After that he waved his hand and stood up. "Where's Andrew?" "My subordinate is here." Andrew, who had been waiting outside the cave for a long time, walked in. "Where's Mond?" "Captain Mond is with His Highnessen." "It seems that things have made some progress," Andrew answered simply. "Really? I'll go and see for myself." The decisive battle is almost a foregone conclusion. As the top god-level combat power, N is not as good as the Twisted Demon Lord, but his survivability is second to none. After absorbing the godhead of the god of time and shadow, he has reached a level of survival. An unprecedented culmination. So she didn't participate in the decisive battle, but accidentally discovered another key. Garen's strength is now infinitely close to Anne's, and the relationship between the two has been repositioned, with Anne treating Garen as a partner. "Garen, you're already here, don't you want to say hello to your old friend?" Annie suddenly spoke up to remind. As the dragon guard who had been following Garen all those years ago, he was the only one who talked to Garen fairly casually. Garen followed her gaze and suddenly saw the somewhat familiar looks of Leona and Polly. "Are you Leona, Polly?" "Long time no see." Polly stood up helplessly, and Leona also stood up with a smile. The two guys were still miniature versions of the white dragon, obviously not reaching the 9th level of arcane magic. "You didn't even notify me when you came." Garen's expression suddenly softened. "We think about it too. The question is how to notify," Polly pouted speechlessly. "This time we were also dragged into interceding for Snow City." "You are all in Snow City now," Garen was surprised. "Well, it was originally in the Imperial capital, but 3 days ago, the Imperial capital was breached, and the fire destroyed all the buildings. It may not be extinguished yet." Leona felt a little sad. "Is your contractor okay?" Garen frowned. "Fine. That's good. Now that you're here, stay here with me and don't leave." Garen confirmed directly, not allowing either of them to refuse. Seeing the hesitation on both faces, he continued. "You can bring in those with whom you are close, as long as there are no more than 100, I will accept them all." Leona and Polly breathed a sigh of relief. "I've been waiting for your words," Polly said bluntly. "Just tell me." "What are you waiting for?" Garen was speechless. "Okay, I still have something to do. You just settle down nearby, and Annie will arrange accommodation for them." "Clear." Galen took Andrew and walked directly out of the cave. Although the decisive battle was still going on, Garen's mind was no longer there at the moment. The situation was clear, but he was worried about something else. The local world will not completely collapse so easily. This is not the creature here, but something else. Bang! 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 In the ruins of the White City, a huge black humanoid monster composed of countless corpses and weapons walked heavily step by step, hunting for any living creature that may exist in this world. Whoosh! 2 white shadows fell from the sky, landed on the ash roof of a building, and transformed into Garen and Andrew. The giant monster walked past the two of them, but seemed not to see them at all. Destruction Corpse Puppet, a monster born from the combination of void energy and the death curse breath of the native world. This kind of monster is everywhere now. Andrew looked at the monster and explained. Where's an underground here? Let's go. The two quickly walked towards a deep pit and crack. The monster giant on the ground happened to find a hidden living creature, grabbed it and stuffed it into his mouth. The living creature was a human being, and there were two legs struggling outside his mouth. They were bitten off with a click, and there was no movement immediately, and there was blood. Following the corner of his mouth, the whole world seemed to be filled with an aura of despair. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1368. Flying along the underground cracks, Galen and Andrew soon saw a lilac light. A terrifying beholder corpse that was thousands of meters long was quietly stuck in the middle of the crack in the ground. Its huge and swollen body was stuck on the bulges on both sides. The entire beholder is basically an eyeball covered with bloodshot eyes. There are tentacles hanging all around. The bloodshot eyes on the whites of his eyes were like blood-colored nets, oozing out some viscous liquid. This is an incarnation of the Great Mistress. Garen narrowed his eyes slightly as he recognized the origin of the corpse. It seems that the teacher did a lot of things while I was away. Do you think you are the only one who is working hard? Anne's angry voice came from the core of the corpse. Come in quickly. His voice changed to a female voice again. Obviously it was the fixed period of voice change. A large hole opened up on the side of the beholder's corpse, revealing a passage leading inside. Galen and Andrew got in together. It was dark inside. After passing through a thin layer of something like a thin film of soap bubbles, they suddenly entered a huge cavity. The cavity was filled with blood red, and the surrounding walls were covered with dense blood vessels. Anne and the golden-winged dragon mother stood together, facing a tall red crystal display screen. Hearing the noise, Anne turned around and glanced at Garen. I found something. Your unit commander Mond was sent out by me to collect parameters. You sit down first. He pointed to the ground, and a stool made of flesh and blood suddenly arched up on the ground. Garen frowned, walked over and sat down slowly. What's going on? Teacher, this is the first time you look so serious. And took a deep breath. It's not serious, but the problem is indeed serious. Gold wings, please explain. The golden-winged dragon mother nodded and stood up. We found something, an artificial thing that seems to be naturally emitted by the hellspawn. It's dangerous, it's troublesome, it's similar to a curse. She looked serious. Curse, Garen repeated. Yes. A kind of curse that specifically targets time, the golden-winged dragon mother whispered. The gods themselves have methods to lift the curse. It seems to be used to target the powerful pollution developed by us void creatures. So what? Now that you've discovered it, you should find a way to solve it, right? Garen didn't believe that any curse could stump such a powerful and other demon lord true spirits. It would be fine if it was just like this. It wouldn't be difficult to remove it, and said next to him. The key is that after killing the beholder mistress, when I entered her interior to look for crystals, I accidentally used her corpse's special perspective ability to see the distortion of space fluctuations. There is also a special virus spreading in the distortion. It's specifically for space. You mean? Garen's expression became serious after hearing this. Yes, and nodded. These two things are no longer simply the same thing, but have been mixed and mutated. He sat down and rubbed his forehead, showing a tired look. Your Highness, what will be the consequences of mixing? Andrew couldn't help but ask. I don't know the consequences, and helplessly shook her head. The best thing is probably if we find a solution before it becomes a full-blown outbreak, if we can't find one. The problem is that so far, we have discovered from the clues we have found that the time curse is spread by the children of hell, and the source of the space poison is simply the lost true spirit. The golden-winged dragon mother exhaled and said with the same helpless expression. Lost true spirit. Garen frowned. Puff. Toot toot toot. Suddenly, a violent alarm sounded on the red crystal screen. And the golden-winged dragon mother immediately turned around and looked over. They saw a black vortex that was originally rotating on the crystal screen. At this time, blue light spots exploded in the middle, as if someone had used a paintbrush to dip paint and sprinkle it on it. Same. Abrupt pieces emerged one after another. A curse has broken out somewhere. It's a hybrid type, the golden-winged dragon mother quickly explained. And turned around with a solemn expression. It looks like we'll know what the consequences will be soon. Garen stood up and glanced at the screen. Go directly to the scene. The bloody sky was filled with streaks of red lightning. Bursts of thunder rolled in the clouds, spreading from far away to near. The whole world seemed to be distorted and blurred, like a scene seen through a blurry telescope. The earth, the air, everything near and far, the bones on the ground, the soil, the 10 pieces, the dry and dead twisted trees, and everything else became blurred and doubled. A subtle and strange buzzing sound was constantly spreading and vibrating in this area. Along with the distortion and blurring of the picture, the images become larger or smaller. Aha! With a soft sound, Garen and 4 other people appeared on the ground at the edge of this area, all looking inside. This is it, and whispered. Garen looked around and felt that he couldn't see anything inside clearly with his eyesight, as if everything was constantly trembling and changing. Is it the light or something else? He frowned. It's not light, it's space, and explained with a serious face. The space here cannot withstand the erosion of curses and poisons, and it has become unstable. What happens? I don't know, and shook his head. It will appear soon. Just watch the consequences of the mixture of curse and toxin. He stared at this area of about a few square kilometers intently. Garen stopped asking and waited quietly. The vibrating sound grew louder and stronger. Buzzing. Like countless bees flying around the airs, people can't help but feel irritable. Laugh. Suddenly a black snake-like shadow flashed in this area. In an instant, it sank into the ground and disappeared. What is that? Garen frowned. It looks like a snake with wings. That's Law, Anne explained. I named them La. They look a lot like shadow cracks, but only I know that's not the case at all. He is the superior god in charge of the gods of shadow and time, so he is naturally qualified to say this with certainty. Bang! Suddenly there was a huge explosion. The entire area shattered directly, like a glass mirror, completely shattered into countless fragments of different colors, flying and scattered in front of the 4 people's eyes. Then all the fragments became darker and smaller, and the entire area turned into a huge black hole. The huge attraction turned into a surge of air, pulling everything around. Mud, gravel, dead trees, bones, and even air. Everything is drawn into it by a huge gravitational pull. The black hole turned into a huge black ball. Time and space has collapsed, and said loudly, "Let's go." He waved his hand and spread a black light, covering the 4 people. It buzzed and disappeared at the moment when the attraction struck. On the edge of another area with double images and blurry distortions, the 4 people reappeared, narrowly avoiding the attraction just now. It was also a desolate plain, and the 4 gallons had distanced themselves from this area as soon as they appeared. Space-time collapse. This is trouble. Garen knew this phenomenon. In the collapsed space-time, time and space are infinitely distorted. No one knows what will happen. No one could predict what would happen. Even the Void Demon Lord, the true spirits, and the gods did not dare to enter it rashly. Some theories speculate that after the collapse of time and space, it means there is an opportunity to leave this limited universe and go to a broader universe. They believe that this universe is just a small corner of a larger universe. Through the collapse of space and time, we can temporarily leave here and enter a broader and huge universe. There are more perfect rules and more boundless time and space. But no one can confirm it. People are just guessing. There has been a collapse of time and space in the past, but it was a small area that briefly appeared when the upper god fell. It was not as big as it is now, Anne's expression was solemn. I once saw the god of war fall. As one of the few pinnacles among the upper gods, when he fell, he only triggered the collapse of time and space a few meters wide. At that moment, all rules and laws were ineffective, and there was only pure and incomparable attraction, attracting endless filling of everything around him. That void. How long will this kind of absorption last? Garen also realized the seriousness of the problem. It will last for at least several decades, and simply said, and such collapses are everywhere now. Call. Waves of light cold wind suddenly blew, mixed with subtle shadow energy. Garen was slightly startled, and quickly exchanged glances with Anne. He stretched out his hand and gently grabbed a wisp of black wind, gathering it and wrapping it around his fingertips like silk thread. The shadow magic network also collapsed. Did Shar also fall? It seems that the battle between gods is more intense than we imagined, and nodded. All order and chaos will return to chaos. Garen looked at the increasingly distorted area ahead. Bang! There was another explosion like shattering, and a brand new black ball appeared in front of them, greedily devouring everything around it. Aha! The four people disappeared again in an instant and appeared again in another place. However, as soon as this place appeared, they saw another large area broken not far away. They quickly teleported again. After changing several areas one after another, I found a safer place. The huge attraction pulls huge air currents, forming violent winds, blowing the clothes and cloaks of the four people. The collapse is getting faster and faster, and said in a low voice. Do you want to notify other beings? It's too late, and said decisively. I'm ready to leave this universe. Stay away from this battlefield. Leave. Gamble. Maybe the god of potion left from the collapse of time and space and suddenly showed a crazy smile. Garen looked at him steadily. It's better to go to the void universe with me. It's useless. If my prediction is correct, your void should be the same as here now, and showed a hint of ridicule. This is simply the last resort used by the gods to perish together. He paused. The only way now is to find a more stable collapse and push it in. As for what the final result will be, no one knows. The only choice we have is to find a space-time collapse with a higher survival rate. This is also the key to why I have been reluctant to join the war. He looked sarcastic. Even the universe and space have a lifespan and will get sick, let alone gods. When I used to manipulate time, I would occasionally see some space-time collapse. For example, I have done a lot of research on this aspect. As long as we can find a space-time collapse area that is almost filled but has not completely disappeared, then the safety will be maximized. I can deploy a one-time stable portal. Garen looked at the area around him that was gradually beginning to twist. Perhaps we should observe for a while longer. The collapse of space and time may be repaired by the instinct of the universe. Regardless of whether it is repaired or not, the result will not be easy, and said calmly. According to this level of scale, if the repair fails, everyone will finish it together. If the repair is successful, a large amount of energy and material conversion will be needed to fill the hole. At that time, as the powerful existence closest to the rules, we will be the first to be pulled in to fill the hole. Garen just frowned and didn't answer. He didn't have much nostalgia for this world, but he wasn't sure of Anne's words until it was proven that other methods were ineffective. Seemingly sensing his hesitation, Anne didn't say much. I will arrange and find a suitable collapse point within 2 months. If you want to leave, bring someone to my place. He and the golden-winged dragon mother instantly turned into black shadows and disappeared. Anne and Andrew stayed where they were, looking at the increasingly twisted area. Andrew, what do you think? Andrew was silent. He didn't know how to answer. Unlike Galleon, his bond with the world was far beyond Galleon's. Garen sighed, turned around and disappeared into the air. In the next few days, the divine war continued, and the huge dream ball area was still shrouded in countless dream powers, isolating all perceptions from the outside world. The world's air and sky phenomena are becoming more and more weird. It seems that the energy rules caused by the fierce battle have been too seriously damaged, and the spread of space-time toxins has become more and more rampant. Garen first went to the black hole area where he first came to this world. Flying all the way, there are fragments of the broken continent of the kingdom of God everywhere, and there is a dead silence in the void. Almost all biological races are attracted to the decisive battle area, which is the best place to improve themselves. The black hole was indeed still there as expected, but when Garen planned to travel through it, he found that the time and space of the void world on the other side was even more unstable. The instability of space and time will make it possible for him to travel through the depths of the universe with unknown and uncertain coordinates. Garen did not dare to enter rashly, but only observed the outside world for a few days before returning. Black balls caused by the collapse of time and space are everywhere along the way. These black balls are like abyss holes that will never be filled, swallowing up all surrounding matter and energy. Garen saw with his own eyes that an astral traveler had just escaped from the astral world. He happened to encounter a black ball and was swallowed alive. The whole person was stretched into a super long strip like a noodle. From a human shape of only more than 1 meter, it turned into a thin line hundreds of meters long, and was completely absorbed by the black ball within half an hour, leaving no trace. Not even a breath of soul was left. The local areas without distorted ghost images are becoming more and more dead, the air is getting thinner and thinner, the energy is getting less and less, and the spell-like abilities of many creatures have begun to degrade. He quickly went to find the Lie Demon Lord, who was also out of the battle. She also noticed this strange phenomenon, but did not find it to be a sign that the universe was about to collapse. They just thought it was a consequence of the war between gods. They are working together with the Star Territory Demon Lord to seize all the territory. After observing for a few more days, Garen finally made up his mind and prepared to take people away. Regardless of whether it is true or not, for him, it is nothing more than time travel and rebirth. Such an experience is not uncommon for a demon king's true spirit. He quickly summoned some of his most elite subordinates and close friends. Galen went directly to Anne's area. This time, unlike when he just discovered the collapse of time and space, Garen really made up his mind to leave. In the dark yellow sky like dusk, the sun is dim and the moon is almost invisible, only its outline. The earth is cracked and bare, with only black balls tens to hundreds of meters high standing on the ground, constantly devouring and absorbing all matter around it. On the edge of one of the black balls, a small black-gray hemisphere shield protected a small group of people standing in it. Garen, along with Rista, Andrew and others, looked up at the huge black ball in front of them with the Goldwing Mother and Lady Revenge and others. "This is the one I'm sure of," and said solemnly, looking at the black ball in front of him. "The entry time is between 1 month and 1.5 months. After this time, it will be the next unstable period, and I can't resist this guy's distortion. Facing this kind of thing, all the rules and abilities are useless, only rely on your own physical fitness to resist." "Resist hard? I'm good at this." Garen nodded to express his understanding. "Is everything arranged?" and looked sideways at him. "Of course." Garen smiled. "When I came to this world, I only responded to the Mother River's call and looked for other possible paths. It is inevitable to leave now." "That's good," and handed him a ring. It was a black metal ring set with a round amethyst. The side of the ring is surrounded by a metal ring with 8 different weird symbols engraved on it. This is the black crystal ring. The material it makes is a very mysterious thing that cannot be destroyed by the collapse of time and space. Its function is that once you fall into the time blurring effect, it will wake you up. With good luck, you and I can meet again. Day. Wake up, Garen was a little confused. Button no longer explained, he strode towards the black ball with the golden winged dragon mother and other arrangements, without any nostalgia for this world. Garen just watched as they went faster and faster, and his body gradually stretched like a noodle. It was quickly absorbed and disappeared into the black ball. "Do we really want to leave?" Andrew suddenly said. "You want to stay?" Garen glanced at him. "If you want, then stay. Maybe we will never meet again after this time." Andrew was silent. "Why stay?" "I also plan to go to other worlds to see new experiences," Annie, who is also from the local world, said nonchalantly. "Unfortunately, even if we are together, it will be difficult to get to the same place with His Majesty the Dragon King. You have no idea about the complexity of world travel." Nadia, who has rich experience, sneered. Garen waved his hand. "If you want to stay, just stay. I won't force you." After a moment, seemingly hesitantly and slowly, fully half of the people in the shield walked to the other side. They all had complicated expressions and did not want to leave this familiar world. In other words, I still have illusions about a future where the world will collapse and be destroyed. After all, this is their familiar hometown. This is your choice, and I respect you. Garen nodded to express his understanding. Finally, he took a deep look at them, and everything about this world flashed before his eyes. He was reincarnated as a white dragon, Meton, entered the Snow City, and stepped into the abyss. Until now, even though it was only a few decades, this world also left a deep impression on him. "Let's go," he waved and turned around, striding towards the black ball. This black ball is in a stable period and its attraction is not very strong. He and Rista Elfies, who followed him, as well as Nadia, Winking, and others, approached the black ball step by step. No one looked back at the people left behind. Until a huge black shadow enveloped everything in sight. Wow! Subtle sound of water. Garen slowly woke up from his sleep. His face was washed away by the water on his head and he was a little breathless. Cough, cough, cough. He coughed violently and got up from the ground. Surrounded by a bright and small bathroom, the bathroom heater was turned on, the floor was wet, and the hot water vapor from the hot water in the shower cast a layer of white mist on the sink mirror next to it. The sound of painting water seemed extremely harsh. Garen's face was a little dazed, his pupils were constricted, and he stretched out his hand to grab his neck. He felt as if something was swollen and burning in his throat. "Am I not taking a shower?" He walked to the mirror and wiped the fog from the mirror. The mirror suddenly reflected the face of a young and pale man, and that familiar yet unfamiliar feeling suddenly came to my mind. This is me. He closed his eyes and recalled in his mind the moment he just walked into the black ball. Am I not traveling through the world? And all the scenes in front of him are clearly his original starting point, the origin of his journey through the electric shock, the earth. Maybe it was all just a dream. He hesitantly stretched out his hand and looked at his palm. It was empty, nothing, not even a trace of the amethyst ring. Dream, he suddenly felt that everything he had ever experienced seemed so unreal, as strange as a dream. Maybe it really is a dream. I still have to go to work tomorrow. It's my first day at the job I just found. I still have to leave a good impression on my colleagues tomorrow. He wiped the water from his hair vigorously. Don't wash up quickly. Don't catch a cold. In the dream, he changed his name to Garen and went through a series of various journeys. The feeling of being so real and vivid surprised him. Maybe I should write it into a book, maybe it will be a big hit, Ha ha ha, he couldn't help but chuckle. Quickly rinsing the stain off his body, he pulled a towel to dry himself and put on his clothes. Snapped. He turned off the light in the bathroom, and Luo Jing opened the bathroom door and walked out. But he didn't even notice the flash of purple between his fingers. A simple yet exquisite amethyst ring appeared clearly in the mirror opposite the door, shining brightly. Luo Jing seemed to have some idea. He raised his hand and looked, but saw nothing. Why did it feel like something was shining just now, he muttered. The moment he put it down again, the amethyst ring slowly appeared, shining with mysterious and strange light. As for Luo Jing, who had his back to the mirror, a vague and ferocious white dragon gradually appeared on his back. The white dragon slowly rotated and circled like a totem. Everything is far from over yet. The ending of this book is ultimately dull. Regardless of whether I am satisfied with it or not, I can only write it here, and there is nothing I can do about it. It seems that I need to take a month or two to rest for a new book. Alas, this book is too tiring, that's it. Now I am mentally and physically exhausted. If I want to go further, I need more accumulation. Finally, I would like to thank you again for your support over the past 2 years, and I sincerely wish you all the best and all your wishes come true. So far 2015.7.2312:43